what to make of this one, Joe.
I know, this has had you perplexed all morning long. The question before the jury issue, the government let automakers remove driver controls on autonomous cars. Quentin Brogdon is board-certified personal law, injury law, and civil trial advocacy. He's down in Dallas, Texas, and he joins us now. Quentin, good morning. How are you?
Morning, Counselor.
Good morning, Ray and Joe. How are you?
We're good. Thank you for being with us. How did this all come up in the first place? When did automakers want to take driver controls away?
Well, we've been inching slowly, and some would say not slowly enough, towards this for some time now. The automation of our vehicles has been going on a lot longer than most of us realize. We've had, anti-lock brakes, electronic stability control, automated parallel parking, and then the last 5 to 7 years, the so-called age of AVs, autonomous vehicles.
Yeah.
And there's quite a bit of economic pressure. These companies are competing with each other to roll out more and more advanced autonomous vehicles with more and more control taken from the human drivers. And lately, the regulators, our federal government, they're considering allowing vehicles without manual controls, that is, without steering wheels and pedals. And there have been quite a few comments to those proposed regulations, comments by the manufacturers and then comments by safety organizations that are concerned that we're moving too quickly.
Quentin, let me go over this. Theoretically, what are the arguments for this that they're making? You've got auto dealers, auto manufacturers. You also, though, have, for example, outfits like Waymo and like Lyft. Some of those, which I imagine would probably save them money. I don't know exactly. Anyway, what's the rationale for thinking about doing this?
The rationale is that we're going to get to a safer, better place one day because, over 90% of crashes are caused by human error. So if you take humans out of the equation, the theory is then it will be safer. And there's no doubt that automation can save lives. The issue is that in the short term, some lives are going to be and have been, in fact, already lost because we're introducing new errors into the equation.
Right.
These autonomous vehicles don't always see well and they don't always think well, and we've seen some spectacular crashes and lives lost.
Would it be possible, I've heard this also, and I think it's possible now in some ways, to hack the computers, because cars are all computers. They're all about computers. And now with Wi-Fi and everything else that's going on, it would seem to me that it might be not that hard to basically, get into the program and screw things up.
That's right. We know systems, any system essentially can be hacked. Some of our most sensitive nuclear missile weapon systems were hacked not that long ago, and hackers put on the screens, insert quarter to continue playing for the controls, for instance. GPS is notoriously insecure. It's basically the federal government invented it, global positioning system. We use it to motor around using our phones and to maneuver, and it's a satellite system, but that's easily hackable, and that's only accurate to within 1 to 2 feet, and one nanosecond of error in GPS is a foot of error in where you're positioned, enough so if you hack it or it's slightly out of phase or out of whack just a little bit, then you can end up under the 18-wheeler instead of steering around it if you're in an autonomous vehicle that's using, at least in part, GPS to maneuver.
So the argument for, where does it go? How do you stop this from happening?
Well, I don't think you're going to stop it. The real question is, can we roll it out thoughtfully, and do we need to chuck safety out the door, and do we need to just let these companies unfettered do their thing, and will profit motive alone be enough to keep the focus on safety? And we know from sad past experience that when you leave corporations motivated only by profit, that often at least safety gets thrown out the door. We had the Ford Pinto where there was the $12 part that would have prevented the explosions, and
Corvair for that matter.
Cheaper not to put that part in. So we do need regulation. The government has a role, and there's a debate going on right now. Do we need to remove the controls and basically coddle this industry and change all of our laws, or make dramatic changes, or should we continue to hold them accountable and roll this out in a thoughtful, meaningful, paced way? We're going to be doing this no matter what. AVs, autonomous vehicles, are coming. But we need to keep one eye on safety and not just blindly do whatever the industry asks us to do.
By the way, we were talking to basically, and this gets into law, so I want to get into law for a minute. If, in fact, you do, personal injury, you maybe do civil trial, probably liability. If there's an accident, who's responsible?
Well, it's interesting. We're in a twilight zone right now where the human drivers still have responsibility. There have been some spectacular Tesla crashes, for instance. Teslas are marketed with a feature called autopilot. And some of the drivers have claimed, and I think not without justification, that they have been led to believe that these Teslas will drive themselves, at least when the autopilot's on under certain circumstances. Mm-hmm. But read the fine print, and Tesla says, no, you, the driver, still have responsibilities. And by the way, when a crash happens, several have, Tesla says, well, the steering wheel, the system was beeping at the driver to put his or her hands back on the wheel. Always seems like it's a he thus far. But in any event, it was beeping at you. Anybody who sat in a hospital and heard, the alarm sounding and seen the nurses ignoring them knows that it becomes white noise. So it's an open question whether the designers and manufacturers of these systems are up to the challenge to keep the human drivers engaged. And so when there's a crash now, humans still have responsibilities and still have a duty, under the law and elsewise, to maintain some control, but yet these systems are lulling people in many circumstances into a false sense of security, and safety goes out the door. So it depends is the answer to your question. The system, on the circumstances, on what's going on. But right now, there are arguments both ways.
Okay.
Quentin Brogdon, partner in Crain Brogdon LLP in Dallas, where he practices plaintiffs' personal injury trial law, something that we got to keep an eye on in the months to come. Quentin, thanks for taking the time to be with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Ray and Joe. Fascinating topic.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, thank you.
Frightening.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very frightening.
Frightening.
Yeah, you make it sound like this is going to, well, you said this is going to happen, so there you go.